Being able to retrieve our current location is a very important aspect of every ride-sharing application. So I've gotten to that point in our project where we need our app to be able to retrieve the user's current location. So Flutter has a package that makes it relatively very easy to retrieve our current location. So the package is called the geolocator package. So that's what we are actually going to be using in our project to be able to retrieve our current location. So without wasting any further time, let's get right into it. Now the first thing we need to do will be to install the package. So I'm going to pull up my Google Chrome and I'm going to go to pub.dev, which is where we usually download most of our Flutter packages. So I'm going to go ahead and search for geolocator. So this is the geolocator package. So I'm going to go ahead and install it. So I'm going to copy this line of code, and inside of our Android Studio I'm going to open up my pubspec.yaml file, and I'm going to go ahead and paste this here. So I'm going to stop debugging our application, and I'm going to go ahead and click pub-get to be able to install the new package. So now that we've successfully installed our package, now the next thing we need to do is to go ahead and make use of the package. So I'm going to navigate to our main page. Alright, now the first thing I'm going to do will be to create an instance of our geolocator. So I'm going to define it here. I'm going to say var geolocator. So this is going to be equal to geolocator. So the geolocator package will be automatically imported for us. Now the next thing I'm going to do will be to create an instance of our current position. So the position object is actually coming from our map package. So I'm going to call this current position. Alright, now the next thing I'm going to do will be to create a new method that is going to allow us to retrieve our current position. So this is going to be void, and I'm going to name this method setup position locator. So this method is actually going to be an asynchronous method, so we need to add the async signature. So the geolocator package actually makes it very easy for us to retrieve our current position by just using a line of code. So I'm going to say position. This is going to be equal to await geolocator dot get current position. Now the next thing we need to do will be to pass in the desired accuracy. So we have a lot of options to select from. We have best for navigation, we have best, we have high, we have low, lowest, medium, and values. So what are the differences? So just like the name goes, the best for navigation is actually very necessary, or is actually required when your app is actually going to be doing some form of navigation, of which that's exactly what our app is going to be doing. So this actually works well for us, though the downside is that it consumes a lot of battery power, but that's exactly what we need. Now the next thing we need to do will be to go ahead and say current position will be equal to position. So now that we successfully retrieved our position, more like our current location, what exactly do we want to do next? So what we have in mind is that as soon as our app starts and we successfully retrieve our current location, we want to kind of move our map or animate our map to this particular position. So to be able to do that, I kind of need to get a lat launch object from this current position. So I'm going to call this POS or pose, which stands for position. So here I'm going to go ahead and pass the position.latitude, and here I'm going to have position.longitude. So this will make up a lat launch object for us. Now the next thing we need to do is to create a new camera position object. So here I'm going to say camera position. So I can call it CP or camera position, but I think CP works well for us. So this is going to be equal to new camera position, and here we can go ahead and pass the lat launch object which we just created, which is POS. The camera position allows us to set how far we want our map to zoom in as at the time we are animating to this particular position. So we are going to set our zoom to 14. So 14 actually works well for us. Now the next thing we are going to do will be to go ahead and say map controller dot animate camera. here I'm going to have camera update dot new camera position. So I can go ahead and pass in the camera position which we just created, which is CP, and bam. So this is basically all that we need to do to get our current location and also animate our map to the current position. So now that we have this method fully set up, where are we going to use it? So we actually want to call this method fully set up. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit. So as soon as our map is ready, that is in the onMap created callback, I'm going to go ahead and call the setup position locator method. So this should go ahead and execute all that we have in mind. So this normally is supposed to be everything. We just need to go ahead and run the app. So utilizing location services on our devices, both Android and iOS, requires some form of special permission. So we kind of need to request the user to give our app some permission to be able to access location services. So how to do that, we're going to refer back to the geolocator documentation. So if you scroll down from the top down to the bottom, we're going to see where we have permissions. So these are the two permissions we need to request from our Android devices. So I'm going to copy these two lines of code. Now where are we going to place them? We're going to place them inside our Android manifest.xml, and this is the path to the file, and we are going to put it inside of the manifest tag. So without wasting any time, let's get right into it. So here I'm going to go ahead and open up our Android folder. Inside of app, SRC, main, and Android manifest. Alright, so this is the manifest tag, so I can easily go ahead and paste the permissions here. But there's one more permission that we need to add. It's also very important that we do this right now, that we remember, because in case we forget, our app can actually experience some challenges and we might not know where it's coming from. So we need to go ahead and add the internet permissions. So without having the internet permissions, when your app is in the release mode, it might not be able to access internet connectivity, and most of the things that requires internet in our application might just stop working. So let's just go ahead and have that. So this is basically all that we need to do on the Android side of things. Now to fix up the iOS side of things, we need to also refer back to the documentation. Alright, so for the iOS, we need to provide usage descriptions inside of our info.plist file. So the usage description means that you have to tell the user exactly what you need the location services for. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go into Android Studio. So I'll fold this up. Then we're going to go into our iOS folder, inside runner, and we can access info.plist file. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and paste this here. So I just need to align this properly. So it's always very important that we provide an appropriate string that really explains why we are actually requesting for the location service, because this is very necessary when you want to publish your app to the App Store. Apple would definitely ask you to provide more context, right? So this is more like the dummy string that we copied, so we can go ahead and make it more contextual by saying this app needs access to location to be able to find nearby drivers. Okay, so we need to return back to the documentation, and we also need to go ahead and copy these other two user descriptions. So this reads when in use user description, and this reads always user description, and when in use and always user description. So this one is very useful, especially when your app is going to be making location updates from the background. So we're going to go ahead and add it as well. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste this here. So this is basically all that we need to do to be able to retrieve our current location. But one more thing that we need to just go ahead and do is that for us to be able to retrieve or access our current location in background, we need to enable a capability for our iOS app. The capability is called background modes, so we need to go ahead and enable it. If you're actually using a PC to develop, you might not actually need to do all of this, but just to ensure that we'll accommodate our iOS brothers, so you just need to go ahead and do this pretty quickly. So I'm going to run our iOS project. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this button to be able to add a new capability. So I'm going to search for background mode. Now I'm going to go ahead and select location updates, and bam, so this is basically all that we need to do here. So I'm going to go ahead and close out our Xcode. Now the next thing we need to do will be to go ahead and test our app just to verify that everything works just the way we expect. So what we have in mind to happen is that as soon as our app launches, it's going to navigate to our current location. So let's go ahead and do that. So our app is starting up. Okay, so this is my current location, but there's one more thing that is missing, right? We need to add the blue dot that kind of signifies our current location. So to be able to do that, I'm going to return back to our Android Studio. So we're going to go ahead and add these properties to our Google Map. So we just simply need to enable the properties, and that will be it. So I'm going to go ahead and enable my location. So my location enabled property will need to be set to true. So the next property I'm going to add, or I'm going to enable, will be the zoom gestures. So I'm going to type zoom gestures enabled. I'm going to set this to true. And zoom control enabled. I'm going to set this to true as well. So let's go ahead and restart our app. And this time around, we expect to see the blue dot. And bam! Oh, bravo guys. So we've been able to retrieve our current location, and also we've been able to navigate or animate our map to our current location. So this will be all for now. In the next lesson, we are going to be talking about geocoding and how we can actually retrieve address of a particular place using the location coordinates. So as soon as you're ready, head over to the next lesson so that we can get started.